the rain was beating so hard against the house. I actually went out to make sure I didn't have any blocked gutters or anything like that. I mean, it was coming down hard.
Yeah. No, it's not a pretty sight out that way. I don't know if you can see that we've got proper surf down below and the trees are all quite a view from Dr. Barnes's patio or balcony.
All right, we're live on YouTube now, so you guys are good to go. Good to go.
And Brent just turned into a logo.
Yes.
All right. Is Betsy here?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So,
Oh, yep. No, Betsy.
okay. Well, good evening, folks out there. If you're watching, we have not yet started the meeting. Once we are all present, I'll get the meeting started. And for those already on the call, so to speak, for the meeting, just know it seems that a handful of us are experiencing some internet instability. So if that happens, we'll just need to either refresh, come back, or repeat what we're saying in case that impedes our ability to share information.
Feels like a slightly absurd situation.
Waiting for people to join a Zoom meeting?
And not knowing who's out there.
Oh. Okay.
There she is.
Here's Betsy. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining our May 18th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Lakewood Board of Education. The board did start a meeting at 6 o'clock and went immediately into executive session. We've concluded that executive session and are now in the regular meeting. In our return to the public session, we typically do begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic
republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. First item we have is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I would move adoption of the agenda as modified with the addition of item D and other board business.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt an amended agenda. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Aye.
Mr. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you. We have in our materials the minutes of the regular board meeting held on May 4th. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion or changes? All those in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any nays, abstentions? Okay. Moving on. Next item, superintendent's report, Dr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam President. I have several items to share with the board tonight. First and foremost, I'd just like to take an opportunity to send a message of gratitude to our incredible staff. May 20th, which is Wednesday, marks the end of the instructional year for our students. Our staff, administrative team, support staff, this entire education community has done a fantastic job of providing an education for our students during this closure. And so I want to take my hat off and congratulate and salute them that the end of the academic instructional year is coming to a close, and we appreciate them. The next thing I'd like to do is also thank the class and congratulate the class of 2020. Their commencement, virtual commencement, will take place on May 31st. In the morning, there will be a parade, and we want to celebrate them as well. And in addition to that, we have had sign-up sheets for the ceremonial walk across the stage. Mr. Walter, the high school principal, has indicated that that has gone very, very well and has filled up really fast. And so that'll afford families and students the opportunity to walk across the stage with their close loved ones to celebrate this great milestone. So I wanted to mention those two updates. Speaking of May 20th, we modified the academic calendar to end the instructional year on May 20th. Our administrators and teachers will stay with us through June 3rd. And one might ask why? Because we want to engage our professional learning community to prepare for next year. And so as we can pretty much anticipate some form of remote learning next year, we want to give our staff ample time to plan. And so we've developed a professional learning plan along with the assistance of students, input from teachers, professional resources, families, administrators, to develop a plan that is basically grounded in 4 competencies. Number 1, developing a foundation for high quality instruction. 2, to develop a common understanding around a consistent learning management system to support the delivery of the curriculum. 3, to settle on a tool or tools that we will use to create synchronous and asynchronous lessons. And 4, to support students in social emotional learning. And we will do that by also finding the intersection of how all of these work with the vision of a Lakewood graduate. So that is the work ahead of us. They've done a great job, our staff, of planning a professional learning hub so that our teachers in the areas that will support remote learning specifically can be able to train and grow professionally as we prepare for next year. So we're really excited about that. That will begin on May 21st and will run through June 3rd. The next piece that I would like to share, and I know there's a lot of information forthcoming from our recreation department. Mrs. Krogman has provided some updates. The governor has recently made some announcements around dates. It's important for the public to know that while we acknowledge and appreciate the governor's dates that he has shared, that it's a matter of local capacity and providing a service that we can be proud of and that the community deserves with high quality. And once we get to a point where we feel that we can do that, then we'll give more information around how our summer specific to recreation and other programs will actually roll out. So we're still in the phase of trying to assess our capacity internally to get organized around recreation programming, and more will be forthcoming very, very soon. So please be patient with us. We know that this is an important experience for families, for students, even our adult recreation. And so we want to always deliver a high quality, and we need time to continue to plan and be responsive to these dates that have been shared. A couple of things to note, however, as it relates to recreation is there's been some questions around what if we've paid money already and we've pre-registered for some programs. I have been told that we have issued more than $5,000 in refunds. So if that's a request that families would like, they can make that, and we have accommodated that. We've also credited more than $7,000 to accounts that families can use for future programming. We had stopped taking registration beginning April 29th. We're, with the exception of private music lessons that are being conducted virtually at Lakewood High School. And so on the heels of the governor's announcements, we're trying to figure out what the new registration protocols and what that window, when it is reopened, will look like. So again, more would be forthcoming, but we wanted to just give you some quick hits, as Ms. Krogman has provided for me, as it relates to recreation. And we know that that's a valuable piece and component of our community, and we're working hard to provide some solid answers and direction moving forward. So with that, Madam President, that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Barnes. And I would just add, indeed, throughout this time, even though we have not been having students in classrooms and working, the district is still open, as well as the rec department. So my understanding, of course, is that if people do have questions either for their schools or for the rec department, they should still call or email and leave a message, and somebody will be getting back to them, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
So yeah, again, things may be a little different. One may need to leave a message or wait a bit to have an email response, but people will get your information back to you. Thank you. All right. Since this is the second meeting of the month, now is the moment on the agenda where we take communications. Are there any communications you'd like to share, Superintendent Barnes or Treasurer Zeman?
Not at this time.
No. Okay, thank you. Board members, is there any communications you'd like to share?
No.
Other than, I'm sure we're all receiving a lot of the same comments from folks, much that we're hearing throughout the community, the stress of the situation, the compliment of the staff, compliments as to how well it's working with the virtual schooling and so forth, even though everybody would prefer to be doing it the traditional manner. And, different families and different kids are having different difficulties, but everybody seems to be working their way through it as best it can. The different folks that I talk to, I don't have any particular huge complaint or comment. It's just a general discussion of what the community is saying.
Thank you, Mr. Favor. Yeah, if I could just add too, I know we're all experiencing this, but this is the end of the school year when we just don't have, and we haven't had and will not have the opportunity to publicly gather and celebrate a lot of the successes that have occurred over the year. And honestly, in the length of some students' careers with the schools, as well as some teachers and other professionals who are retiring. And so with that, I would just note that the board and all of us do celebrate with you who've had success this year or are moving on, whether it be graduation and to the future, whatever is in place, or in, whatever's next for you, as well as those of you who have given years of service to our district and won't be joining us next year. So we do express our congratulations. And when we do have opportunities, whether they be in smaller gatherings or in more electronic ways, we will do our best to make sure that you know how much we've appreciated what you do and congratulate you for what you've done. A remote meeting and a sort of a Zoom assembly is a very different way of getting together. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that as we conclude this school year, that we do celebrate you.
I think I just to say, I think I'm really glad you brought that up, and maybe at a later board meeting, we could at least do pictures of our staff that's retiring, because we always have a celebration prior to a school board meeting. Maybe if we could just show which staff are leaving so that people that didn't know that can reach out to them or thank them or something at another board meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaughnessy. This is an open and public meeting, and for any of you that are watching us live stream, now is the time when persons who may have had comments for us would deliver those. We did solicit for public comment prior to this meeting, and we did not receive any for this meeting. So at this time, I will not be entering into the record speaking to anybody's comments, but just know, as long as the state is permitting us to have remote meetings, remote open meetings, we'll continue to solicit public comment in that fashion. So please do use the submission if you would like to comment on any of the agenda items that we might have at future meetings. So moving forward, the next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Do that.
So it's been
Sorry.
moved and seconded. Let's see here. Any discussion or notes on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. P.T. Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next item is the Human Resource and Community Services Report. Mrs. Shaughnessy.
Thank you very much. We have 3 items. The first certified item will require a roll call vote. There are a total of 165 actions, including leaves of absence, appointments, administrative contracts, continuing contracts, special compensation, and salary and pay rate adjustments. And I would move adoption of this resolution again with a roll call vote.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. P.T. Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Abstain.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, still yours, Mrs. Shaughnessy.
Thank you. The next resolution deals with a total of 8 classified actions, appointments, and administrator contracts, and I move adoption of that resolution.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? All right, thank you.
And the third item, community recreation and education, involves a total of 9 actions. This also requires a roll call vote, please. And I move adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. P.T. Barcelona,
Aye.
Mrs. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Oh.
I think we just lost them.
Ms.
we
Beebe.
just-
Aye.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
All right,
You can wait a minute for him to come
yeah,
back.
we'll pause just for a moment to see if Mr. Callahan is able to rejoin. The motion did pass, or the item did pass, so that's.
It's far more unstable than it's been in any of the previous meetings. this,
I think it's the weather.
I think, must be.
That's what Mr. Callie was telling us too, is just that when the weather's like this, there could be more disruptions with the internet.
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Yes, Mr. Zeman?
I'm going to call Mr. Callahan on my cell phone.
Okay,
His power and internet went down.
Hi, Mr. Zeman. I am logging back in with cell phone service.
Okay, did you want to just stay on the cell phone with me, or do you want to log back in with your phone on the Zoom meeting?
Looks like I'm going to be able to get back in with the phone action.
I will.
I tested this as backup, just never had to implement it so quickly. So I do
Oh,
apologize.
there you are.
There we go.
There he is.
Great.
Mr. Callahan, we paused the meeting. So, Mr. Zeman, did you get his response to the motion that we had before?
No, so that was the community recreation education motion, Mr. Callahan.
That's an aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Shaughnessy. Moving forward, next item is other board business, Mrs. Shaughnessy.
Thank you very much. We have 4 items. The first is a resolution requesting approval on 1 reading, which will be a roll call vote for 2 certified retirements and 2 certified resignations, and I move adoption of the resolution.
I second.
Moved and seconded. This requires a roll call vote. Mr. Zeman.
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Aye.
Mr. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye. Didn't hear it? Okay. Have to wait for it to light up.
Dramatic pause.
Yes. It's been going so smoothly. We need
I
to.
know.
All set with that one, Mrs. Petrie Barcelona?
Yeah, the first item under other board business, correct.
Okay, we now move on to a request, and this is approval on 1 reading, so that will require a roll call vote, 1 classified resignation, and I move adoption of the resolution.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Since it requires a roll call vote, Mr. Zeman.
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Aye.
Mr. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. The third item is a first reading for a resolution to approve the extension of the Director of Observations employment contract. So this is the first reading. We will not vote on this tonight. And then the fourth item, the one that we added, is a certified action. It's requesting approval on 1 reading to take an administrator action, and I would move adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or notes? Hearing none, Mr. Zeman, please call the roll.
Ms. Peter Barcelona,
Aye.
Mr. Shaughnessy,
Aye.
Mr. Favor,
Aye.
Mr. Callahan,
Aye.
Ms. Beebe.
Aye.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaughnessy. Is there any other business that comes before the board?
Madam President, just as an earlier question that came about, the House Bill 197 did allow for the electronic meetings through December of 2020.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Huh.
Longer than we thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since we don't know week to week what the rules will be, it's probably good to have flexibility.
And we will let people know in time before this next meeting in June how we've decided to go forward.
Indeed. All right. Any other business that comes before the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So it's been moved by Mrs. Beebe, seconded by Mr. Favor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we stand in adjournment unless another meeting comes up until our first meeting in June. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
Have a
all.
good evening.
All right.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you all.
Good night.
Have a great night.